Your Highness, Ministers, my Lords, sorry, I've got the wrong. I'm so used to giving this in other places. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, if we've got any, and participants, good morning and welcome to the highly anticipated, slightly delayed debate on a topic of paramount importance: the pressing water challenges that confront us and the motion before us. This House believes that we have all the solutions we need to solve our pressing water challenges. We just need to get on with it. My name's Dr. Mark Fletcher. I'm the Global Water Leader at Arup, and I'm honoured to serve as your moderator for this thought-provoking discussion. We've now run this for the last 6 years, and it's a great opportunity for us to hear people's views who are engaged in the whole conference. Water's the lifeblood of our planet. It sustains us all. In fact, all of you are about 65% water, even you. Yet in the face of increasing demand, pollution, and the far-reaching impacts of climate change, our global water resources are under strain. The motion before us raises a compelling question. Do we possess the answers to address these challenges? If we have these answers, then why haven't we solved them? On one side, we have a team arguing in favour of the motion. So could the team in favour of the motion come and sit down, please? You can applaud at this point. Thanks very much. And I would encourage you to whoop and cheer and barrack and heckle, maybe, when they're speaking, but not when I'm speaking. They assert that humanity's reservoir of knowledge and innovation is vast enough to tackle even the most daunting water crises. Their stance implies that by harnessing existing technologies, policies and cooperation, we can make significant strides towards solving our water woes. On the other side, the opposition, if you'd like to come up. You can boo, you can cheer. All the doom mongers amongst you. There we go. I don't carry any bias whatsoever, John. So they contend that while we've made noteworthy advancements, there's still gaps in our understanding and practical implementation. They argue that solving complex water challenges requires a deeper commitment to research, investment, and most importantly, a willingness to adapt and learn from our experience. So overall, it's important for us to consider the definition of innovation. We've purposely not made this debate for and against innovation. It's rather the ways we're innovating to reach the outcomes we need that's important. Innovation here can mean the solutions we have and the way we're implementing them, not necessarily new and shiny ones. Throughout this debate, we're going to hear impassioned arguments, factual evidence, hopefully, and diverse perspectives on whether our current toolkit of solutions is sufficient, or if we must look beyond this status quo. It's my hope that by the end of the discourse, we'll have gained a clear understanding of the potential ways forward. We also have a Menti poll for those in the audience to participate to, and those remotely. And Ellie, could you come and please explain? Ellie is our Chief Menti Coordinator and coordinator of the whole event. So can we have a round of applause for Ellie?
I might have to get that on my business card. Chief Menti Coordinator, it's a new one. So yes, if everyone could follow the link by the QR code up there, or you can go to menti.com and put in the code. That is how we're going to be kind of moderating the Q&A for this debate, and it's also how we're going to have a bit of a test the waters with a yes or a for and against for a vote on the debate, both now and then, of course, at the end, when we'll be crowning kind of the final winner, which is a very big deal. So, That's all I'll say. Head to the Menti. That should help you out.
Yeah, you probably can't see it, but we've also got some really advanced digital scanning in the room. Xylem were involved in procuring it for us, so if it goes wrong. So could you all please raise your hand, first of all? First of all, just raise your hands, we'll see if the equipment's working. Right? Yeah, it relies both on movement and it's also retina scanning. So it actually is adjusted to your mood. Okay, so we're now going to run a pre-debate vote on the motion. So could we have, raise your hands for those in favour of the motion. Hang on, now, if you raise your hands, those in favour of the motion. Could you raise your hands if you're abstaining, if you're not sure for or against? Oh, right. 6. And those against the motion? Oh, yep, that's coming through. Our system identifies if you put your hand up more than once, so don't worry. I know there's a couple of you out there. So 60, 79, 21, 7, 2, 30. I'm just checking that it's right. Yeah. It's not perfect, this system, but 27.319% of you are for the motion. 42.416% are abstaining, and 21.265% are against. So it will be against that we measure the swing. And the whole thing about whether you've won is not whether you've got the bulk of the votes, but whether you've got the bulk of the swing. So it's all about influencing people. Okay. So without further ado, I invite our esteemed, I think I've got the wrong speech still, our speakers to present their cases, challenge one another's perspectives, and illuminate the path ahead. So let the debate begin. Cheer. So if our speaker could come here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Brooke Atwell, to open the debate for the proposition. Brooke's the Associate Director for Nature Conservancy's Resilient Watershed Strategy, and in her role, Brooke develops and executes a global strategy to mainstream nature-based solutions in the climate and water sectors, and she manages the strategy portfolios of flagship programs. She works with an incredible team to conserve watersheds around the world by developing solutions that meet the needs of biodiversity and communities. When not on the job, she enjoys backpacking and, like me, eating fried chicken. Woo! Okay, so over to you, Brooke. Ellie, are you going to be our time monitor as well? Thank you very much. That's all right, don't worry. Off you go, Brooke.
All right. Thank you all. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Bart. Okay. So I do believe that we have the solutions to solve our pressing global water challenges. And just sweet Jesus, do we need to get forward with it. Yes, we are dealing with very sticky, complex problems that deserve, equally considered and adaptable solutions, but most of us honestly know what we need to do. We might just need a little help and maybe a little courage to actually do it. All of us know that we need to base our solutions in science, engage thoughtfully and deliberately with stakeholders, inject more financing into the water space, change regulation in support of innovative solutions, and better monitor and evaluate our interventions. And perhaps most importantly, we need to speak loudly and proudly about our successes and our failures. And I know I just rattled off a whole bunch of stuff that sounds very complex, and not to sound very, very flippant about it, I'm not denying that it isn't a long and complex list, but we've quite literally been espousing and reiterating and emphasizing these same principles in almost every single session that we've had at World Water Week. And most importantly, we've been espousing them alongside many of the solutions, the successes, and the new tools that have been developed even over the past year that will help us rise to meet these principles. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't room for improvement. I believe that there is always room for improvement, and inevitably we will find better, faster, more efficient ways to scale. But we have the solutions we need to start making progress right now. In fact, science says we really can't wait. We know the statistics, we live and breathe them every day, and if you've internalized them in the same way that I have, we can't wait until we've developed this most perfect tool floating golden in the ether shining down on us. You know, I think of it sort of like camping gear. You know, I love backpacking, and so if those of you have ever been camping or backpacking or, you know, partake in one of those, you know, gear-happy sports, if you will, we all know that there is no end to the gadgets and the upgrades and the innovations that you can purchase to make your camping gear just fractionally better. Maybe you have one of those fancy backpacks that redistribute the weight from your shoulders down to your hips. You know, maybe you're getting one of those hollow core tents where you're making it just a touch lighter, or maybe you cook your food faster on one of those glorified, you know, Bunsen burners, essentially. And now I'm not knocking these interventions. I personally have one of those fancy backpacks, and I also love my trumped up Bunsen burner. I'd be happy to talk about it afterwards. But people realistically were camping long before these innovations came around. You know, the gear wasn't perfect, but it did the trick. And that's exactly how I personally feel about the solutions that we have for the water sector. There is always room for improvement, and we should be striving for continuous iteration, but we can't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Sometimes I feel like we're that friend who is coming up to you to vent about a problem that they're having, and no, they don't want you to solve it, they just want you to listen. And I do 100% believe in the power of listening. Don't get me wrong, but we've also been in the position where we can just see what the friend needs to do, and if they would just take the action and kind of reach out and grasp it, it's so frustrating being in that position. And sometimes I feel like we are that griping friend, and that's sort of the reputation that COP received, you know. The world came together to set these very ambitious climate goals, and it made the most of us feel like there was a light at the end of the tunnel that we could look forward to and work towards. But people didn't actually follow through with the execution and move through the tunnel, and I just don't want us to go down the same exact path. I feel like if we went forth with the same level of enthusiasm we have for talking and griping about our problems, we would actually make some pretty good progress. Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't innovate. In fact, I think we do need a form of innovation, but we also have incredible solutions sitting right in front of us, and I don't want us to discount their effectiveness because they're not that shiny new backpack. I said it earlier in my remarks, and as a self-proclaimed perfectionist, I have this sticky note on my computer that reads GEFN, and that stands for good enough for now. We cannot let perfection be the enemy of the good. We can't stagnate and wait for this perfect innovation. We have to act to be able to find it. Thank you.
I have TTFN, that's Tatar for now. Yeah. Cheesy. All right, so thank you, Brooke. Now we have the first representative from the opposition and our first young water professional to the floor, Pani Pio. Could we have a round of applause, please? So Pani's a consultant in the Global Climate and Water Programme with the Alliance for Global Water Adaptation, AGWA. She's also a COP28 International Youth Climate Delegate for Myanmar, Young Go. Welcome, Pani. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that I am a trained engineer, and so my idea of innovations has always revolved around what is feasible and what is practical at the local ground. So I will start with that. Ladies and gentlemen, while it is very tempting to believe that we have already possessed all the solutions for the water challenges that we are facing right now, and we need to act on with it, but in reality, it is always not black and white. Today, I will present you some of the arguments that are rooted in starting from the global policy making, especially in the climate and water realm, and also the implementation gaps that we are facing that are at the local level. So, a bit of the background. So during the past few years, I've been following this UN climate change conference, especially in its adaptation context. And then one can't ignore the fact that there are a lot of innovations and technology, especially in combating climate change. They have been mentioned in these policy dialogues. But there is water, especially which is an essential component in combating both mitigations and adaptation activities in the climate realm. Water has not been quite mentioned probably in the long-term national climate planning for the nation, as well as in the climate conversation as a whole. So especially this year, I've been kind of following this dialogue, which is called Global Goal on Adaptations. I wasn't born, and a lot of parties and a lot of nations are fighting and also negotiating what is coming across, like the methodological issues, as well as the implementation complexity at the local level. So it is also kind of hindering to assessing the adaptation progress in the local level. It's different from country to country, from region to region, and also global level. So we must ask here, if water is so integral to a lot of adaptation activity, of which we are living with the climate change, shouldn't there be a sort of like a more concerted effort to align this global policy with the local implementation gap that is needed in the ground? Achieving this alignment, of course, is not an easy task. So you might ask, why are you mentioning all about this global policy framing? So we have a lot of frustration in the climate space, but we must understand this current global framing issues and also the current dialogue, because if we are trying to change the transformative change in the water sector, we must include the climate change, which is the pressing issues. However, the heart of the matter that is coming is our inability to translate those global and national solutions and policy, especially to the local grassroots level. Yes, we all know that there are a rise in innovations, a rise in technology, in water solutions, thanks to our advanced satellite data or informations. But many of the countries are facing the fundamental challenge, which is the absence of the enabling condition, as well as the current financing infrastructure that is not supporting. So to introduce these solutions effectively at the local level. So the problem is not about having a solution, but also it's making it applicable and accessible widely. I have been attending a lot of sessions in the past few days, and there's one thing that is quite prevalent is in the water sector, especially in the water resources field, they are still operating in silos. So there are a lot of interdependency between energy sector, agriculture, water, and also its connection to a lot of economic development in nations. Especially for long-term planning issue as well. So when it distills down to this local context, many of these global solutions are either become disconnected or unsuited in the local context. So here again, this question is, don't we just have the solutions? But it's all more about the questions of, are these solutions universally applicable? Are they acting in a more multi-sectoral way? So I give you a final example before my conclusions. I did my research in Kenya a few years ago, and I was actually trying to find the gap whether this global policy making and also how are they using in the local climate decision making in the local context. So I investigated the climate information systems. And what I found is that there are so many challenges that we have to use in the local decision making. So we are looking at infrastructures. In the infrastructure, we do not have physical infrastructure, financial infrastructure, or governing structure that is supporting a lot of information that is coming out from these global climate models or regional climate models. So there is the gap that is missing there. Another thing is about complex jargon and technological issues that is happening in the ground. A lot of these climate information systems, for example, are filled with technicality that is only designed for the technical audiences. So there are a lot of audiences that local stakeholder who is not using those technicality or understanding those technicality. So Sorry, I will finish now. So the question is, what use it is if we have all the solutions, but if we are not sharing it, understanding it, and acting upon it in the local decision making? Conclusions. So while we must have a lot of issues about, a lot of ideas about water solutions on paper, their execution on the ground is stay filled with challenges. We don't just need solutions, but we need innovation in how we disseminate and implement these solutions, especially catering towards the unique needs at the local level. So the conversation is just about simply getting on with it, but understanding intricacy.
Look, don't applaud my coordination of what we're doing. You should be applauding the speaker. Thank you. So we're just going to just a little bit of jouissance now, given that one of the teams is using twice as long as the other, but that's neither here nor there. So Brooke, is there anything, do you want to come up? Anything just immediately that comes out of what you've just heard that you'd just like to make a point on? Just one thing, and maybe Pani, and we just want to get the interaction going a little bit. So Brooke, you can take as long as you like, really, because, oh no, keep it concise.
Yeah. You spoke a lot about changing minds, improving implementation capacity, and improving the regulatory enabling conditions that will allow these global programs to translate to the ground. That's quite literally my job. That's what I do every single day for the Nature Conservancy. I work on a global program, and we translate this general framework down to the ground in very specific areas that have different socioeconomic contexts, different water security challenges, different biodiversity challenges, different social development challenges, and I feel like there is always room for local interpretation. That's key. I'm not disregarding that. But we have this large framework, and if we want to believe in replicability and scalability at a pace that meets the global challenges that we have to make sure that we continue to keep this global framework intact so that we can translate these general principles down onto the ground to meet local conditions and local needs. Thank you.
Thanks, a really concise couple of minutes there. Anyway, Pani, I don't know you. Have you got anything that Brooke stimulated when you were listening to what Brooke was saying? Anything you'd like to come back on?
I heard about the pursuit of professionals and also like the solutions from Brooke statements. I just wanted to say that yes, we agree that the pursuit of professions shouldn't be paralyzed us and also like kind of pushing, like giving us an ability to enable the already existing solutions on the ground. I'm not saying that, but we have to always consider that these solutions, are they aligned to the local conditions? Are they stay sort of like in the complete solutions situations? Do we need to talk to other stakeholders and involve in the solutions making realm? So I think that is very important. So it is, we can look for the result which is kind of, we have to be very intentional about when we are making the solutions and implementing it with the local context. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Ooh. So next from the proposition team, it's František Fritzek. I hope I got that right. Round of applause for František. He's an award-winning filmmaker, multimedia producer and science communicator. František's finishing his PhD in sanitation, change and environmental health at Charles University in Prague, and also produces videos and podcasts on all other things water. He's also involved with One Water, formerly Water Science Policy, an independent social enterprise. Woo, woo. That's the other two members. No, Three Water. On water that publishes and translates original academic articles and produces other multimedia content to make water topics accessible and engaging to all. So, František, over to you.
We cannot innovate ourselves out of being selfish, short-sighted people who would rather spend all their time reinventing the wheel over and over again, rather than actually working together. We are unable to sacrifice short-term gains to achieve long-lasting change. So to say it without all the fluff, all we need to do is just stop being total massive dicks to one another. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, thank you so much for taking the time to being right here with us today.
That was really concerned. Oh, well, you're not.
So, yeah, when I heard the motion, I thought, ooh, I would actually rather argue against. But then I thought, you know what? I actually believe this. I really believe that we have all the knowledge that we already need. And there's really nothing, there's no conference, there's no special issue of science that will help us activate ourselves and make us more cooperative. The only thing we really need to do, it's right there in the motion, you can say it with me, we just need to get on with it. That's all we need to do. So the problem, really, it's us. And we don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit that we are wrong. We like to think of ourselves that we are the good people. We're the good guys, right? And it hurts. It hurts to say, no, we're wrong. We've been doing all these things. My friend John over here, he has this argument about all these challenges and climate change. It's like the Godzilla. And, we need to fight that. But no, it's us. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's us. It's us who's the Godzilla.
Get back in the cave.
So really, as long as we keep thinking in these short-term perspectives, usually just one election cycle, we cannot really achieve anything. Water and all these things, it requires generational planning. You need to do things that will only become visible after years, after decades. And we just want to do that. It's like, no, I just want it all right now, just for myself. And, yeah, it's mine. So until we get from that, well, it will not be achieved. We also lock ourselves in echo chambers, don't want to cooperate with one another. We lock ourselves in these ivory towers, look down on everyone else. And I'm guilty of that too. Until I joined One Water, I didn't know that we had this amazing water community because I thought of myself as a geographer. And I was just too self-centered to look into other fields for my answers. I'm just going to keep working on my stuff over here. At the same time, I don't really want to downplay the amazing work of many activists and grassroots organizations that really are pushing for this change. They are saying, yeah, come on, just get together, sacrifice like all these short-term gains, and really just come together and work together. But, it's this fight of David versus Goliath. But unlike in the original story, this time, David is blindfolded, and his slingshot was taken away by corporate lawyers and lobbyists. So, to recap, society grows great when old men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. I know it's a terrible cliche. I'm sorry to end up on such a terrible cliche. But it's only showing you that we know what needs to be done. It's all out there, really. Like, this code is what, like 100,000 years old? You all know it. So we all already know what needs to be done. But we just don't want to. It's really, it's in us. It's just this innate thing. It's all of us that needs to change, all of us that needs to sacrifice this short-term thinking, and come together and work together. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. And back to the opposition. I heard a bit of growling behind me. Can we have a round of applause for John Matthews? So John's been working at the intersection of water with climate adaptation and resilience since 2007. His work explores how we define, develop and accelerate the uptake of our emerging set of best practices for climate resilience. John started and led WWF's Freshwater Climate Adaptation Programme in 2007 before co-founding the Alliance for Global Water Adaptation, AGWA, in 2010, where he remains the Executive Director. So over to you, John.
Thank you, Mark. And I would like to start off by saying if those are the solutions, we are so screwed. My deep concern... my concern is that we, in the water community, we have framed the problems wrong. We actually are using solutions that are essentially faith-based from decades ago, in some cases well over a century past. And they are inadequate to the 21st century issues that we are facing right now. So I'm also a backpacker. I live close to the same mountains where Brooke does. I recently did a 100-kilometer solo backpacking trip in the Cascades a couple of weeks ago. And it's actually quite relevant because while I was on this trip, I passed through roughly 30, 40 kilometers of what's called blowdown. It was densely burnt virgin forest. Primeval forest. It was all gone. And you know what? It's not going to grow back the same way. It's going to be profoundly different. And why is it? It's because we are entering an era of incredibly rapid, intense change, and it is only going to accelerate. And the water community has no solutions for that. In the climate community, they call this the challenge of transformation, where systems essentially reorganize themselves. It's an unfolding process. It's going to take centuries. And what does the water community want to do? They want to look back. They want to say, we need to organize things around basins. We need to have more crop per drop. And I think, like, that's a solution like this when I do totally have a Godzilla-sized problem over here. And that concerns me. And what's even worse is when those proposed solutions are not just inadequate, but they're actually fundamentally wrong. So one of the oldest ideas, one of the ideas that I was just beaten around the face and shoulders with when I started in water was we needed to work on basin scales. You know what? When Beijing receives 70% of its water from the Yangtze, which is 4 basins away, we don't live in a world of basin management anymore. We need to think about systems. And that is innovation that is practical, and it is important, it's achievable, it's implementable, and you know what? It's not coming from the water community, it's coming from other bodies of science. And in water, we need to get out of the fucking water community. We need to go talk to the rest of the world. And those are ideas that we can pull off the shelf that we can actually translate into our world. That's, I would say the innovation is translation. And that's what we need to be working on now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. I was trying to get notes, but some of those words I've never heard before, John. So again, let's have a little time to discuss what we've just heard. You'll all get a chance a little later. This is just the immediate. So František, anything you've got to say to John?
Yes, I do. I do. So first, what I like to say is, as John started, that we have this faith-based solution from last century, basically. I would say we never really got to implement even these solutions because the government changed in the middle, or it was just against someone's very powerful interest. So even these solutions, they were never implemented because otherwise they might work, or you would have this great idea and would just condense down and down and down into this toothless solution that, yeah, it doesn't really work. But my main rebuttal is in something completely different. Have you guys been following what the opposition team was saying the whole time? They are not like, oh, we don't know what to do, what can be done. They have been saying solutions over and over again. It's like, oh, this needs to be done, I know what needs to be done, we need to get out of the fucking water community, this needs to be done. So they rebutted themselves. They know what to do. It's all out there. They've been saying solutions all over and over again. So yeah, I think we won. Thank you.
Thanks. I didn't know those words either. Okay, John, maybe you've got just something concise that you'd like to share back.
I might. There are so many fundamental flaws in how we implement, and I think that indeed there are there are things that we can move on very quickly. But I am a scientist. I actually was trained as a conservation biologist. I no longer call myself that. And I do that because conservation is essentially this idea that we're picking indicators in the past and we're steering backwards. Resilience is the powerful new idea, right? The other term that you hear is deep uncertainty, which is we don't actually know which future that we're headed towards. One that's drier, one that's wetter, maybe something that's really different. It could be even a bit of both. That's what I mean by the term transformation that I was using earlier. When we build, say, a hydropower dam, what do we evaluate its sustainability over? About 40 years, if we're really lucky. How long is that hydropower dam going to last? It needs to last probably for 300 years. And that actually is the most important and critical innovation that we need. We need to actually be able to measure resilience, and we need to be able to track it through time, and we need the advanced governance structures that are going to be able to implement and process that over this multi-generational period. And that information is completely lacking. So as a scientist, that's where I work. I try to think about how do we bring resilience into that space, and you know what? Water is the medium for resilience, but the way that we manage water is not that kind of thing. We're focused on quantity and quality. Those are not indicators of resilience. In my world, the Nature Conservancy would be the Nature Resiliency. Conservation International would be Resiliency International. That's the space that we need to be moving in. And you know in your hearts, especially as young professionals, these are the long-term challenges that we have to face, that we have to embrace, and it is an unfolding process. Thank you.
So next we have Te Huea. Te is the director of Pakara Consultants Limited, whose focus is to embed Maori Indigenous stewardship principles in decisions, policy and processes by working with communities and local and national government. Te Huea holds a number of board member roles, including on the Maori Advisory Board of Taumata Arawai, New Zealand's new water regulator. Oh, Te Huea was raised in her tribe, Ngāti Te Ata, I hope I've got that right, apologies if I haven't. Educated in a total immersion schooling structure and fluently speaks Te Reo Maori, her native language. She also holds a bachelor's and master's degree, giving her the skills to act as a bridge between worldviews to help influence progress. Thank you.
Ripo, ripo, ngā tai ki te manukai. Ruana te rua o kaiwhare. Kaiwhare te tipua, kaiwhare e tangata. Anei a Ngāti te ata e tūnei e. That was just a short pau in Te Reo Māori that is reconnecting me to one of the main bodies of water from my tribal area, and it acknowledges our guardian, kaiwhare, who looks after all our waterways. And I think it's really important for me to start where I come from, because I think Indigenous knowledge systems, Indigenous knowledge in general, has all the solutions that we need, but in this kind of space, we're ignoring this massive, amazing body of knowledge and solutions because it doesn't make sense in a Western context or in a Western term of science. And I think to the point where John was making about, we can't look too far back into the past for the solutions. It's because you're not going back far enough. We need to go back. If we think about Indigenous knowledge, there are thousands of years of observational science that Māori in our lands hold, but it's being completely ignored because we only look at solutions and knowledge that come from the past 200 years from when colonisation happened in New Zealand. And so I think if we can go back to how we used to live and how we used to connect with our water bodies, it'll be going back to place-based. And that's kind of to the point as well about this obsession of globalization. We need a global solution. No, we don't. We don't need one solution because it doesn't exist. We don't have the one perfect solution to solve everybody's water issues. But if you go to place, there are Indigenous peoples in all of those places that have thousands of years of knowledge that tells you how you should be working with your bodies of water and how you should be integrating with those systems to actually create the responses we need in the face of climate change, in the face of all the problems we're facing. Another thing that is frustrating for Indigenous people, especially Māori, we are, is this constant battle against systems. You know, they're pretty much completely opposite, you know, from our point, our worldview. The environment trumps everything. It should trump everything. That's why we are facing challenges with our water solutions, because we constantly think we need to make economic decisions. But if we were actually to work with the environment, it's going to guide us in the way and create the solutions that Indigenous people already know and have. But if we can implement it in this kind of in this day and age, it's there. We've got the solutions in our hand. And I think as well, we as humans, we think that we need to be the solution. We always, like, oh, sorry, I forgot your name, we always think we are the most important part of how we're going to solve these things. It's like, well, no, the environment actually is going to regenerate itself. And if we give it the space to do that, and then we can work with and around it, we're going to have bodies of water that we can drink from. We're going to have, we're not going to have to think about, oh, how do we chemically make this safe to drink? The bodies of water that naturally should be there are already going to have the water that we need to sustain ourselves. And I think just another thing that I want to maybe end on is that Indigenous are constantly having to fight before anything is implemented into policy, into legislation. And if Western science and Western systems could just trust that knowledge, we're going to save a lot of time in terms of coming up with what we need to do. Because, again, this body of knowledge is not used or even recognized until it makes sense in a Western science perspective. And I think that's a massive flaw that we need to fix and actually just get on with it. Yeah, tēnā tātou.
So thank you, Tay. Finally, we hear from Esther Shaler. Round of applause, please. Esther's an innovation specialist at UNICEF. She's a WASH engineer working on innovation at UNICEF in Denmark. She's looking at both product innovation and the challenges for scale of proven innovations. Originally from the UK, she's worked in both emergency and development contexts on fecal sludge management, sanitation service delivery, more frequently has focused on WASH projects that utilise local markets, create small businesses to ensure sustainable services. She's previously worked with both NGOs and the private sector. Over to you, Esther.
This is not an easy one for me to discuss, even though I have the word innovation in my job title. We've spoken about translation of solutions. We've spoken about transformation using nature. I wanted to come up with another T desperately, but failed. The role of innovation is to solve problems we don't even know we have. This week, there's been a lot of talk around sanitation solutions, water approaches, but we don't have solutions for menstrual hygiene management for girls in refugee camps. We don't fully understand how to support women in the work environment going through the menopause. Oh, I'm going to be talking about all sorts. I apologize in advance if anyone's squeamish. In the UK even, where I'm from, we don't have solutions to help people with incontinence. And this affects both men and women equally. and it affects people from high-income settings and low-income settings. And yet, they struggle to have the products they need to be able to live their lives as they would like to. So, purely on a product level, no, we don't have enough solutions to meet SDG 6, and I'm done. No. I thought about it, but even I'm not that brave. So, let's look at this in a bit more depth, because we're not just talking about products, are we? So, what are we talking about? Everyone has used the word innovation. I haven't heard a single definition. So I just want to be clear here. At UNICEF, when we talk about innovation, it means something that's new or significantly improved as a solution that contributes to progress towards children and young people. I'm UNICEF, okay, so it's all about the kids. I'm glad there was a kid in the room, but she's left. I'm sorry. I was enjoying that. So basically, it's about doing new things to solve problems and improve people's lives. But we also said significantly improved. I didn't just say new. You know? Some of this stuff's been around a while. In the UN blueprint for the acceleration of SDG 6, it highlights innovation, not because we don't have any of it, but because we need transformative change. Just to take you on some, everyone likes numbers in a debate, right? So, just to be clear here, we're talking about 2.2 billion people who lack access to safe water. We're talking about 3.5 billion people who lack access to safely managed sanitation. And we're talking 2 billion people who lack access to basic hygiene services. I do not have statistics for menstrual hygiene management, gender, menopause, incontinence, or any of these other issues that are only just being identified as problems, often because the wrong people have been at the table, and I do agree with my colleague here. Anyway. Let me get back to the point. We'll argue that one later. So, rapid is challenging if we want to do innovation, right? It's more than just the solution itself. Everyone has already talked about the gaps in reaching decision makers. They're the gatekeepers to policy, to regulation, to supply chain and coordination. This is more than capacity development. And for those of you who joined my game show the other day, it's more than workshops, which became the buzzword for how we do innovation. Anyway. So, during this conference, we've seen how PUB in Singapore took 60 years to transform the water and sanitation setting there, and many would say that Singapore are now the pinnacle of innovation. In the Imagine H2O session, it was shared that it takes 12 to 16 years for a water solution to get out of the lab and start making profit. That's value-driven, transformative, sustainable innovation, and it takes time. But that's for the value-driven. We've talked about globalization. Globalization is not the way to do innovation when 3.5 billion people cannot go to the toilet safely. So in the same way, thinking about this, you and I in this room know about these innovations. We have access to them. We know where we need to go and what we need to do. That's what we've all talked about, right? You guys, we know it. Let's get on with it. But that's not true. Because if it means that we have all the solutions, are they where we need them? Otherwise, we don't have all the solutions. If we did, when I asked a community in Ghana, I didn't personally, by the way, I want to credit my country office here. They did a great job for me. Thank you. When we asked our country office in Ghana to go out to the field and ask people if they would prefer something something they know that is okay and doesn't always work, or would they prefer something they don't know, but, i.e. a new solution, but it works? Which would they rather? And the response was so poetic, I'm just going to read it in straight because it's cool. They said, just as in formal education, one starts not knowing the outcome, what will be taught, i.e. what they're going to be taught. But because others mention it as the perfect path, everyone chooses it with the hope that they will get the best results. This is the voice from the field, not from you and I, who have the luxury of being in Sweden and enjoying this conference. If they were satisfied with the solutions they had, they wouldn't say this. And this is coming from someone who has a voice. What about all the people who don't have a voice to tell us that they're dissatisfied? I agree with you. Traditional communities are often overlooked, but so are people with disabilities, women, children. We forget that there are people who don't have voices. So, as we're talking about innovation, we need not just the innovations, but for them to get where they need to be. And will they still be relevant when they get there? I had a Nokia 3310. It was super innovative. I could change the cover and play Snake 2, not Snake 1. But is that where mobile should have ended? It was the pinnacle at its time, and it made phone calls. So if we go back to UNICEF and our definition of innovation being new or significantly improved, then today's innovations don't meet the needs when they get there. And they also won't necessarily meet the needs for the future. So we can't reach SDG 6. So if we just go back to the House's statement, even if we can solve today's problems without more innovation and with the solutions we have, they certainly won't solve tomorrow's issues. In the same way that my Nokia from 1998 wouldn't be fit for purpose today, but it would mean I wouldn't have to answer my emails. Thank you very much.
Yeah, ending on a finish note there. So, Tay, maybe there's something that you'd like to draw from our previous presentation.
Absolutely. I think we're essentially singing off the same sheet. But I think we don't need the entire solution. We just need step one. And I think in your kōrero, in your presentation, we know that we need better representation. We know that we need more female in leadership positions. We know that we need Indigenous in decision-making situations. We know what step one is, so why don't we just get on with it? I think that's kind of what needs to happen. And that is the solution. The solution is get on with it, and then we can learn and adapt and actually create the change that we need, because like we've said, we don't know what 50 years in the future is going to look like. And so why are we going to waste time trying to figure that out? Let's just take the first step and then be able to adapt and make the changes we need to. Yeah, that's...
Thanks. Esther?
First of all, I'm UNICEF. If I don't get to talk about it first, I don't have a job. So I'd just like to come back on the traditional communities and traditional knowledge. Most of science is built on knowledge. The midwives of yesteryear were the doctors of today. Midwifery was a science. Whether or not men will ever accept that, that's their own problem. But we're not saying that we've forgotten it. We're building on it. We're challenging it, and we're making sure that it is fit for purpose. I actually have a New Zealand example. Not related to water. When I was in New Zealand, I had a bone carving made, and I sat with a bone carver, and he used the same tools that you use for doing nails. And I was like, but isn't this kind of going against traditional? He's like, if my ancestors had had these tools, they'd probably have used them. The concept of the bone carving was the same. It was still made to have certain knocks and marks to remember certain events or parts of my family's history and things like that. The history and the traditional side of it didn't change, but the methodology became more efficient and more effective, and that is why we need to be adapting for our solutions. Thank you.
So now I'll turn the virtual lights on the audience, and this is your opportunity to, if you've got any comments or questions. I think Ellie is she's gonna get her steps up. She's not. No, we do. Yes, Ellie's gonna get her steps up. She's gonna be our roving mic. So could you put your hands up? And if you answer, can you just tell us who you are and what organisation you're from before you ask your question? Okay. So who's going to start us off?
We've got one there already. We do have a couple online if people want a bit of time to maybe get the juices flowing in here.
Well, why don't we start with a couple online and then we'll pick the ones up in the room, okay? So, Ellie.
Okay, here we go. John, this one's for you. So you said, a question's come through that says, John, you said our solutions are faith-based and a century past, indicating we need to get rid of it. Sounds like reinforcing sort of colonial mentalities from the 21st century. Sorry. That one's really come at you on that one. It does have a question mark on the end.
I'm glad it didn't say that I was funny looking as well. So and had bad breath. Absolutely not. I think that Indigenous communities, for instance, do have deep knowledge. I think part of the challenge, actually, with some of our older solutions, is that we are really not looking back far enough. especially like the concentration of carbon in the atmosphere right now. How far back do we have to look to see that? 4 million years. How old are we as a species? 2.5 million years. That's a gap. That's a big gap. The Inuit, for instance, had to invent a new word for robins, a bird, when they reached the Arctic Circle, because they had never, in their long history in the Arctic, run across these. And in a sense, that's actually what's happening with water resources management as a practice today, is that we are encountering these robins problems now, and we have no words for them. We have no adequate solutions for them. And that is where we need to build on that history, the lessons, that we need to keep the good. But just in the same sense that I hope that the next time that I visit a doctor that he doesn't pull out a chainsaw, I hope that he's able to, or she is able to use ultrasound, use like advanced medical technologies, but maybe also some traditional medical technologies in my treatment. So thank you.
Next question.
One more online. Thank you, John. That was a great answer. We've got one here. So the community at World Water Week has provided the knowledge, but governments are not always listening. How do we make them act, especially in countries that may not, this is especially in non-democratic countries where citizens cannot vote or protest?
Any response from the opposition team or the pro team? Opposition team? Pro team. Opposition team. You guys over here. Any thoughts? Go on. Francis.
Sort of seem that echoes what I was saying, and now I'm going to sort of, as they did, I'm going to rebut myself because I'm going to say I don't really know. No, it's. I actually had that in my speech. I skipped that, even though I had 1 minute left. That yeah, how many policymakers, politicians actually read academic papers? They don't. So again, like none of them do. So it seems like it's more that yeah, the more we're gonna say it, the more our LinkedIn's, our Instagrams, TikToks, I don't know, maybe we're too old for that now, will be filled not with, oh, we've just been to this amazing session on value-based nature conservancy, resilience, lives of whale sharks. We will say, hey, like, no one's listening. Here's five-sentence summary that a 5-year-old child will understand on what's happening. Guys, read it, please, because no one's going to read published research in science. Because I mean, I'm doing my PhD and it takes me like a whole day to get through some of these articles because it's just so densely written. And then I'm of course reproducing the same error because I am again writing articles that no one's read because everyone else doing it. So I suppose to get published, I just need to use all these big words and all this fluff to get it through the editors. So this could be one way. Just stop this patting on the back. Maybe call ourselves out a bit and say, hey guys, come on, we really need to communicate this better. We need to speak in simpler terms and get these people in the room who don't have time. And if you cannot fit it into the old tweet, so like 140 characters, like you need to rewrite it and you need to condense it, dumb it down, and make it understandable for everyone.
Thank you.
I will also come.
Okay, quickly.
Yes, so as I am a youth delegate this year to the climate change, and I just wanted to say that we really have to make a lot of voices as the young people to listen to our water problems for the government as well. For example, in the climate space, there are a lot of youth people who are doing a lot of activities and a lot of noises. For example, Greta and Friday for Future movement and etc. But in the water sector specifically, when we look at it, we have a lot of young water professionals. We are youth here representing a lot of water issues and challenges. But we need to make our statement a little bit more louder and also connecting to the existing system. For example, the UNFCCC, a lot of activities are happening. We have to kind of inform those parties who are attending there as a sort of like youth voice, but coming from the water. We need to have these ambitions loud and clear for as part of this water community as well, so that the government can listen to our voices. Thank you.
So this is our first question here, then we'll take a second one here, then a third one here, okay?
Okay. I have two, if I may ask. One is for Esther. I will start with that. So you spoke of, I believe it's 12 to 16 years from lab to field for water solutions, and how value-driven innovation. I kind of wanted to take the example of when COVID happened and how vaccines were just accelerated. And I wanted to talk about if the focus on innovation is wrongly put on technological advances, but it should rather be on accelerating and putting into force what already exists, sort of.
Depends who you ask.
You.
My job is to translate between the private sector and humanitarian and development settings what we need. So my work is to try and make them realize that there is a market in low resource settings. COVID was an exceptional situation that we will probably not ever have again, where everybody was throwing everything they had at solutions. Now, if we did that with WASH, well, this debate would be slightly different. But that's the reality of collective action. And I can't remember who said it. Yeah, Brooke, you started off by saying we. And I'm like, who is this we? And then Fran was talking about individual sacrifice. But we've just heard, you can't innovate with individual sacrifice. You need the voices and the people behind you, and it's the same with innovation. You need policy innovation, then you need the voices and the drive behind it to make that happen and get people thinking differently. I also think it's really important to have these discussions with young professionals, because ultimately, the dinosaurs will die off, and we will be able to make some changes. So, yeah.
I'm just conscious.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I want to try and get as many people as possible, so could you be concise, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Second question is to Tay, and I really resonated with what you said. And I do believe that indigenous communities have such deep knowledge. But let's say in water utilities, we are moving towards digitalization. And these are problems of tomorrow. Cybersecurity is an issue, and I don't believe those solutions already exist. So is the idea then to take a step back from, let's say, digitalization or things like that, and then adopt those age-old solutions? Or what's the thinking there?
It's a tough question. But I think, for me, you can rely on Indigenous knowledge to at least set guiding principles. And I think that's the important part of how we explore new technologies and, yeah, the creating databases on certain things, because if you have those principles outlining how you use those tools, I think that's the key difference. And if you have Indigenous, if you have women helping to lead that space, I think that makes all the difference. But at the moment, that's just not the case. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Now, we've got a question here, then a question here, and then a question at the back, and then a question here, okay? So we're going to do that. Now, you can see, if we want to get the questions in, we need to give concise answers. And that way we can, it really works. So.
Yeah, so I was very triggered by the Nokia 3310 analogy. Now, the amount of technology that's progressing is insane. Big tech is literally dominating every field of what we know of. They haven't really discovered the water sector yet, so imagine Microsoft coming in to this sector. It will be a game changer. One of the things that I'm concerned of is not the dinosaurs in the room that will die off. It's the potential algorithms that will be imposed on resource allocations. How do we ensure that the future is not going to be an algorithmic-based allocation methods?
Because it won't. Because the communities we need to reach SDG 6, AI is an asset. English is my first language, and I speak it badly. But if we're dealing with a lot of education is elitist and tied up with people who speak a certain language. AI is one of the best tools we've got for translating that. I have had 100% conference acceptance rate this year. I've never had that. Yes, ChatGPT, you are my friend. Because what it has done is it's made me more succinct, ironically, and more clearly evidence-based. AI is a tool and should only be seen as that. It will never replace us, it can't. You cannot replace the knowledge we have with traditional and indigenous communities just by putting it into an algorithm. And I think human nature will address it. We will evolve to address it. I'm not worried about the robots, but I did nearly get ChatGPT to write my argument. I was this close.
Thank you, Esther. Brooke, do you want to come back?
Do we have time?
Okay. We'll take the next question. Thank you. It's here, and then I think it was. Could you put your hand? Yeah, that's right. And then it was at the back, and then it was over here. Have I missed anybody out? Okay.
Thank you. Really great debate. My name is Angela. I'm from Zambia. And first and foremost, I just want to appreciate and acknowledge all the debates. I am on the opposing side. And I really like what you came out with as well. For me, what I wanted to ask is, when you speak about taking this first step and getting on with it, where do you actually see the gap in doing that? Because it came out really strong in your point of argument, meaning it's not yet seen so evident. So where do you see that gap, and how do you see it being bridged so then we can actually get on with it and transform the innovations that are currently there? Yeah, thank you.
I think it's because we're obsessed with holding on to a system that we don't want to let go of. And so we need to release power. And we know, like, across the system, we're in a patriarchal society. We can't deny that. And so we know men need to release power. That's kind of what needs to happen to be able to take that first step.
I've released power to Ellie to sort out everything around this, because I'm useless at anything technical. So there you go. I think we had a question at the back and then a question over here. Does anybody else got a question just after this one? Okay, we'll go with those at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful debate. And it's more not of a question, but rather a reflection. Why don't you also think about both of your positions as complementary rather than opposing positions? Because after all, we know that we're here serving as for one goal, is to have a sustainable, more efficient ecosystem for all of us. So I believe that if we look at them as both as complementary positions, we can succeed. Because yes, we know that our problems of today are not like the past. Our future will not be like today. So yes, we can get inspired from indigenous knowledge for us to adapt for our future, and we can innovate to sustain our future. And innovation is not only about bringing in new solutions, but rather more of also changing the system of how we are adapting into this fast-paced also world. And I can also reflect on why are we here today as young professionals. We are promoting the vision of the youth, how we are bringing this fresh, new perspective. So I think this is where the line lies between changing the way that we're thinking, and that it's not only about putting in the solutions, but creating it in the needs of what we need today and for the future. So yeah, it's just a reflection, but feel free if you need to also answer that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yes, Tay?
I think that's exactly the point of the event. Is that yes, it's a debate, but it's trying to spark thoughts so that we can bring all the knowledge that was shared today to help create the future. So, yay, exactly that. Thank you.
Also, just may add, it was actually Mark's idea to. It would be great if he produced a documentary on the debate, and if we actually did, we could now play you the banter we had before the event, when all of us were just standing outside, chatting and having this conversation, and our spots on the debate could be swapped like this, and you will basically see the same thing, but a little bit different. So, yeah, I think we do that, and it's actually amazing that really this event can be in this spirit that yes, we are all on this together, and we don't really take our positions too seriously, but it's sort of all about.
No, we win. I think that's the bit you forget.
Because you bribed us with a couple of beers, yes. So yeah.
And as you can see, we've already kept the bloopers in, in the presentation. So I think we have a question down here. And then if anyone has a question, just pop your hand up and I'll use the system to register that.
Thank you. My name's Ellie from One Water, and I have a question for the opposition team. All this talk about time has made me think that we are running out of time. People are dying, animals are dying, everything is dying, sea levels are rising. So you're basically saying we need to sacrifice all these lives until we have found the right solution. What do you think?
I profoundly disagree with that as a point. I think, to me, what this idea of transformation means is that we need to get ready. I was speaking at a conference of professional water managers last January, and one of the things I said to them is, you're in the area where they were working. It's a snowpack dominated water regime. So it's all the precipitation comes in the winter and then it melts out over the course of the spring and summer. So it's essentially Mediterranean. And when you talk to these water professionals, they understand that climate change is essentially eliminating the snowpack. But when you ask them, like, what are they doing in their work? They say, we're working on 5% less snowpack. And my engagement with them was, you're headed towards 0% snowpack. Let's focus on that problem. 5%, like, do you have kids? Do you go to a church? Do you pay taxes? Do you invest in your communities? Like, let's focus on the size of the problem that we actually face. Zambia is a fantastic example of I think, a real thought-leading country. At the SB, the Intersessional UNFCCC meeting 2 years ago in Bonn, they were just launching the discussion of a global goal on adaptation. There were 2 issues that came up, and Zambia was one of the countries that just leapt to the fore. They said, our problem is transformation, that our systems are undergoing profound reorganization. We will lose cities, but you know what? We can't stop that. What we need to do is work on the next set of issues. And we need to move upstream and solve the issues that we can really focus on. And those are the people that I want to get behind and I want to help. So, and that means that what I worry about is that a lot of the traditional solutions, it's keeping people where the problems are, and it's not really working on the problems. So I really admire Brooke's point about it's good enough for now, but if you haven't actually identified the right problem, then good enough for now is not good enough. And that's my fear.
I think you're angling for the Zambia vote there. Anyway, we're going to take one final question. I was going to, just before we take that question, just so the teams are thinking, I want you each to be able to just summarise, have a spokesperson. You're going to go 3 points, really concise. Concise? Everybody? Means like short and pithy. Concise. Well, first of all, we'll have this question, but just so you're thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's almost kismet that I'm asking this question after the last one. Knowing that climate change is kind of a shit show, I want to hear from a Gen Z perspective, what gives you hope?
Generation Z? Generation Z?
Well, hopefully I will answer that, although I'm not Gen Z. What are our hopes? Our hope is that every solution that is proposed by the government, every solution that is proposed by the institutions and NGO, they really have to consider about not only in their own way of thinking, but about what is this current, the current generations will live in another, 50 years. How are they going to live? Are they going to change or not? So we have to take the shoe of the future role and also taking that into account in their current decision making, or in their decisions, or in their planning. So I think I would say that my hope is that we have to push our role. We have to push what Greta is, for example, doing. Like, we have to be concerned about our future, and we need to make that clear in our statement. Thank you.
This is going to probably sound a little bit dark, but I actually believe that Indigenous peoples are going to be fine because we've been so resilient. We've come up against challenge, and we're just going to figure it out, and we're going to be all good. And I actually wholeheartedly believe that, because of our ability to come together and support each other through anything is beyond me. So I actually feel fine.
That's like Generation Z learning from Generation A, B, C, D, E, up to where we are now. I love it, love it. Okay, so you're going to have 3 points each. I'll just give you a minute. Whilst we're doing that, could you all go on your menti.com, and I'd like you to vote, please. Okay, write yes or no in the box, and I'll use the audio-visual digital information to complement that. We'll do an in-room vote as well. But okay? And hopefully they'll be pretty consistent, but we'll see. It's like a tumbleweed moment, people thinking and cogitating and reflecting. Has it come up? Don't worry about the menti.com. We're going to rely on, it's not old school, but we'll use the hands. And although you can't see the monitors, they're there, and that'll work. So we'll do that. Right. So because we've gone this side first and then this side second, I think for the summing up, we'll go this side for 3. And that side for 3. So who's your spokesperson? Right, okay, would you like to come and give us your 3 pithy, concise, this is going to sway it one way or the other, so.
Get ready for the transformation. It's coming. Transformation is key. And to do that, we need to be innovative and looking at doing things differently. We are not replacing what exists. We're building on it, making it more efficient, taking traditions and local knowledge to make things better and make those solutions work. And I want to reiterate the local part. There is never going to be a one-size-fits-all for any of our solutions. Therefore, we're always going to be innovating and changing because we have to adapt and transform. So neatly, they all come back to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't vote yet. You still might be swayed by these 3 points, okay?
No, it's fine. We don't believe that transformation isn't important. It's more so that we need to take the first step to figure out what that transformation is. We need to replace those short-term sites with long-term gains. We need trial and error, we need to fail fast, and we need to consider knowledge from other fields that currently exist, including Indigenous knowledge. And lastly, but not least, part of the time when we innovate, we are innovating for innovation's sake, and it's usually filling a gap in a regulatory issue. For example, toilet access. For sure, let's build toilets, but there's a reason why we need to build the toilets, is because we didn't do what we needed to do originally. We had the original solution, we didn't implement it, and now we're innovating to make up for our mistakes. Thank you.
So, could you now please raise your, hang on, I'll just check the system. I'll just reset it. Okay, could you put your hands up if you're for the motion, if you've been convinced by the team over here? So, hands up for the motion.
What? Bless you all. Yes.
Thank you. You guys are so sweet.
What am I bribing you with?
I give you the money after the show.
Thank you. If you're abstaining, and if you're against the motion.
There's 3 behind you. Just make sure you count those.
Okay, okay. Ellie, could you pop up here a second? I just want to make sure that the automatic system has given me exactly the right. So the winner chicken dinner is for the motion with 51.816% of the vote. But could we have a round of applause, please, for the losers? 42.001% of the vote and 6.113% of you abstained. Thank you all for coming. It isn't just about the voting and who won. It's more about the fact that we hold a debate to look across these issues and learn something from the process. It's been a fantastic effort from everybody in preparing for this, for you in joining in and being part of it, but fundamentally it's all about our future. And let's hope it's a sustainable one. Thank you very much and look forward to seeing you next year.